What's up, everybody? Happy Sunday. Hope everyone's having a lovely weekend. Great day. It was pretty cloudy and rainy here in New York. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Matt Mancuso. I run the Art of Eating food publication and online YouTube channel, stuff like that. I am pleased to be here with ButcherBox and Truffle Shuffle. We got a super fun recipe for you all today. Very easy, very impressive. I think everyone's going to enjoy it. Your company's going to enjoy it, family, friends, everyone. So without further ado, I want to dive into this, but I will say for those of you guys who haven't seen my previous streams over the last few months, just a little bit about who I am. I am a New York-based chef. I've been cooking for the last 19, 20 years professionally. I am a graduate from the Culinary Institute of America. I honed my skills right after college in New York City at a lot of Michelin restaurants, per se, Le Bernardin, Blue Hill, Stone Barn, stuff like that. Before then moving out of there and then coming back up to Westchester to start catering companies, consulting, all different types of jobs, basically. I've held every single job in the food industry, front of house and back of house, just because I wanted to learn it all, really. But yeah, I now reside here in Westchester with my wife, and I cook once a month on ButcherBox Live and Truffle Shuffle for all of you guys at home. So without further ado, that's enough about me. Let's dive into this recipe. I want to talk about how this recipe is going to work today. It's a little interesting. We're making party ribs. I don't know if you ever had party ribs or heard of party ribs. Party ribs is a great alternative if you need to feed a crowd and you don't necessarily have all of the time that you need to be slaving over a smoker or a grill or something like that, making sure everything is perfect. These are a super easy, foolproof way of making ribs. And really the secret lies in cutting them into the individual portions and then roasting them, rather than trying to smoke or roast an entire rack at once. That could take a little while. that could take up to like 2.5 to 3 hours, depending on how big the rack of your ribs are. So I'm sorry, I'm catching up here with hi, chef. Awesome. Guys, thank you so much. I love the comments. I love the chat box. I constantly look at this and try and answer as many questions and stuff as I can for you guys. I also have a little bit of help from ButcherBox. So if I fall behind on answering any of these questions, they'll make sure to kind of gap the difference. We just put the recipe for this cook in the chat. So if anyone is currently looking for that recipe, feel free to just check the chat right here that we have off to the right. You can find that right here and click that. But yeah, basically party ribs is just an easier way, a quicker way of cooking ribs. They're already pre-cut. So really all you got to do is just put them up for your guests and they can kind of pick at them as they need. We're going to dive in with this recipe, starting with the ribs. And then after the ribs, I'm going to show you guys how to make the slaw and the glaze for the ribs. But I'll be honest with you, these ribs take some time, depending on how big and thick your actual ribs are themselves and what kind of cut that you bought. We'll be talking about all that kind of stuff in the interim as well. But there's going to be a little gap in between. So I have some ribs that are all ready to go at that stage. I'll transfer you guys over and kind of walk you guys through that process as well, so that, you know, nobody is left in the unknown with anything, right? So speaking of those ribs, yes, I'm just going to pop these out. We're going to talk about these later. And in the meantime, let's talk ribs. So I got a rack of baby backs here. There are really two types of ribs that come off of the pig, right? You have baby backs, which is coming from the smaller part, which I believe is going to be towards the back of the ribs. Yeah. Sort of the back of the rib cage. The front few ribs, right? Because ribs get longer like this. Can you see this on camera? Ribs are long like this, and as they are coming up the back of the pig, they are getting smaller. So towards the back of the pig, we have our baby backs. Towards the front of the ribs, we have our spare ribs. I personally always love baby back ribs more. I don't know why. I'm just more privy to them. I'm going to grab a separate cutting board here, just so we don't cross-contaminate anything that we have going on. So the first step is that you're going to want to pat your ribs dry, okay? Just with a paper towel, kind of just patting these guys dry. Any of that excess moisture and stuff, we don't want it. Okay. Where's my garbage bowl? Boom. Always working with a garbage bowl for those of y'all who cook with us every single month. That's just how I like to go. I also have all of my mise en place also ready to go right here. So there's not going to be like any stopping, pausing. Oh, I need to go in and out of my fridge. I line all of my ingredients up right here so they're at my ready. So here's a fun trick, right? When you have the back of the ribs, and this goes for all ribs, there is a very thin membrane that holds all of these ribs together. This membrane doesn't quite break down in your oven, your smoker, or whatever, right? It will shrink up and get tight on you, but it doesn't fully break down, this like connective tissue type thing. So we actually want to peel that back so you're not chewing on that later. And it's very simple on how you do that. I like to start on the smaller end versus the larger end. You have the bones, which are the more white pieces here. And then you have the meat in between, which is like the opposite of the white pieces, I guess. So I'm just going to take my knife and I'm going to go down the bone side and make a small little incision here. Then I'm going to take a paper towel, such as this, and we're going to like pick up that piece. There we go. You hear it? Now I got a piece of it. All you need is a little piece, because I'll tell you what, it does a pretty good job of staying together. Once you get that little piece off, we're going to rip the whole thing off. Look at that. Boom. That comes right off. Pretty easy. All right. Now, for these party ribs, I like to go every 2. You could go every 1, depending on how much time you have for the actual cook itself. So I'm just going to take my knife and I'm going to go down the in between to have ribs, right? Boop. So again, here, just like that. So I have 2 ribs on 1 portion. Nice. These are some beautiful ButcherBox ribs we got here. Excellent. Now, when you come to the end here, there's a little flap. You could leave it if you want. It's going to cook up anyway. I'm just going to clean it up, take this thinner piece off, and then there's a nice little chunk of fat running through here. I'm just going to slice that right off too. So now our ribs are all cleaned up, just like so, looking like that. Let me just take care of this board. I'll be right back. And we're also just going to give this a nice little spritz, just in case any of that juice may have fallen on the bottom board. I'm a germaphobe. Don't want that cross-contaminating here. Excellent. Ribs. Awesome. I'm just going to do a light little spritz of olive oil, very, very light. Okay. Now I got my my ButcherBox Sweet and Smoky rub here. Make sure everything kind of has a little bit of oil on it. This is going to help the rub adhere to the ribs. If we were smoking these, very popular in barbecue, if anybody tries their hand at barbecue often. Other binders that you can use other than olive oil, of course, are going to be like mustard, hot sauce, really anything. So I just want to get these guys completely coated in this rub. Nice and smoky, which is definitely going to help since we're not smoking these ribs, right? You just want to evenly coat all these guys. Just like this. You know what? I'm not going to lie to you. This is definitely easier, right? I thought it'd be easier. It'd be like, oh, take it out of the shaker, put it in a bowl, use a spoon. This is definitely the easier way. Excellent. Excellent. Last but not least, here we go. Awesome. We're also just going to hit this with a little bit of salt, just a little extra. So the higher I hold my hand, the more surface area I'm going to cover, right? So if I'm down here and I'm just doing this little, I'm only getting right here. But if I'm up high, I'm able to cover a lot more ground at once. That wasn't a good example. If I'm up high, I'm able to cover a lot more ground at once. There we go. Just like that. So the directions are going to say to cover these in foil and put them in the oven at 400 degrees. I actually, through trial and error over the last week or so, I like to not have it covered in foil. I think they cook a little bit better when they're just in a high heat, top shelf oven. Gives them a nice even time for them to be roasting. Steaming them is a good method, especially if you're going to do like a full rack at once. It kind of helps keep them nice and tender. When you do steam, I like to do them a little bit on the lower side. Yes, you can season both sides of these guys. Absolutely. That way the flavor permeates through the bones. What if I only have truffle, honey, truffle salt, and not the ButcherBox rub? What can I use instead? You can make your own kind of rub using garlic powder, onion powder, a little bit of smoked paprika to kind of like play off of that smokiness from the sweet and smoky rub that we have. A little bit of granulated sugar can kind of go in there. Cayenne pepper, stuff like that. You can kind of switch it up to whatever your flavor is. That is probably going to be the closest to what the sweet and smoky rub is, though. How do we feel about titanium cutting boards? I don't like them at all. Plastics are okay. Your best bet, honestly, is going to be wood all the way. Yes, you can use wooden cutting boards, especially if they have some sort of finish. When you're cutting meat, you just have to make sure you're cleaning it immediately right afterwards. You don't really have to focus too much about it getting through. Especially on nicer, higher quality boards, like this is a nice board that I have here. It has a certain kind of finish on it. If I did want to slice raw meat or something on this, as long as I'm cleaning it up immediately after, I'm not going to run into any sort of issues. Some sort of disinfectant right afterwards as well. You won't have an issue. Plastic boards are okay. The thing about titanium, knife to metal, although it is titanium and it's not going to chip or degrade it at all, it's not good for your knives. There are better options, you know, that's all I say. Can these ribs be done on a black stone grill? Absolutely. Treat it just like we're treating an oven. Preheat it up to 400 degrees and you can pop it right in there. Anytime you're grilling anything, you can kind of use that sort of idea. If you wanted to do like wings on your grill, and most recipes you're coming across are going to say, hey, bake them in your oven at 375 or 400 degrees. Treat your grill the same way. Preheat your grill. It's totally fine. Not a problem. What do you use to clean it up with? I like to just use nice soapy water with a sponge, and then I come in here with some disinfectant spray. You can even use like Windex antibacterial and stuff like that. Not glass cleaner, the antibacterial grade of Windex. Here we go. Yes, of course, no problem. All right, so listen, we're going to pop these guys right in the oven, just like this, 400 degrees. And depending on how thick your ribs are, depending on how big or how many you even have on a sheet tray himself, is how long they're really going to take. They're probably going to take around 40 minutes, but they could take up to 60 minutes, a full hour, okay? But in the meantime, we're going to work on some other stuff. First thing I want to work on is, let me make sure that I don't jump around here and make sure we're doing this properly. All right, cool. So the next thing I want to work on is the glaze. This is a glaze that you're going to use in the final 10 minutes or so of cooking your ribs. So having it done ahead of time and letting this all kind of like reduce and melt together now is going to be imperative for later. But we're going to work on this. So essentially you want to just get some sort of sauce pot. Don't make fun of this one. This has been with me for a very long time. And then we're going to go in with our honey, our hot sauce, and I did not cover them in tin foil. You can, normally when you're doing ribs in a full rack at a lower temperature, you want to keep the moisture inside. They almost essentially are steaming on themselves. So if I had a full rack of ribs and we were going to cook them at like 300 degrees, low and slow in an oven type thing, yes, I would wrap them. But what I have found with the party ribs, cutting them individually like this, we want to cook them as evenly and as quick as possible. That's kind of the idea behind this. Having them uncovered, I have found, is definitely a little bit better in my studies. That's what I found. So for the glaze, do I need to steam? Hold on a second. That disappeared. Pork gives me gas, so I use beef. That's a good question, to be honest. That is a very good question. I want to say no. I would just go with a lower temperature. If you're going to be using beef, beef has a little bit more fatty tissue, that sort of thing kind of running through it, especially short ribs. Short ribs need to be done low and slow. So I would not do the exact recipe directions for this. 400 degrees for 35 to 60 minutes isn't going to work for short ribs. You're going to want to hang out probably around 300 degrees, and they're going to take you about 90 minutes to 2 hours easily. All right. Anyway, so with our glaze, you need some sort of sugar, right? You need that to kind of thicken, some sort of reduction that is going to help stick to our ribs, but also counter the heat that we have coming from our rub, right? So I got some honey here. We're going to do about a quarter of a cup of honey straight into a pot. My eyes are measuring spoons, guys. Boop. To that, we're going to do about 2 tablespoons of hot sauce. Use your favorite hot sauce. Doesn't have to be Frank's. It could be really anything that you have. I've been really obsessed with this habanero. I don't want to show any brands just in case I get sued. This habanero hot sauce is delicious. So I've been putting this on everything. I'm just going to use a few tablespoons of this. This is kind of loose. You can use it. You can kind of gauge this to your own preference. If you want this very, very spicy, you can add an extra tablespoon. I won't tell anybody. If you don't like spice at all, and you don't want to use a hot sauce, what could you use is a supplement? Barbecue sauce would be great here. We're basically just fortifying that barbecue sauce with a little extra sweetness with our honey. You could even go the extra step and do a little bit of each and do a little barbecue sauce, a little bit of hot sauce, and our honey. I personally like true South Carolina barbecue fashion. I believe it's South Carolina. I like a little bit of acid. So we're going to do some apple cider vinegar, just about a tablespoon. Adds a little twang to it. Stir that all up, just like so. I'm going to show you guys what my inside of my pot looks like in a second. And then we're just going to put this right on the heat. Let this cook till it reduces. Gets all bubbly. But just do me a favor. See what that looks like? Haha. Do me a favor. As this is cooking, keep it on low because it does get really, really hot quickly. Honey has a tendency of kind of burning or going from 0 to 100 really quickly. So if you don't have your eye on it and you're doing other things, definitely keep this on a low simmer and let this gradually come up. If this comes up too quick, depending on what kind of countertop you have, especially, it's going to bubble over and it's going to get very, very sticky, especially if it burns on like a flat top, like I have, like an electric or something like that. You're going to get like a nice burnt honey smell that's going to be stuck in your house for days. And you're going to be mad at me. So put this on the fire. We're going to keep it on low. Just like that. Awesome. In the meantime, I'm going to work on our next component, which is going to be our slaw, basically. So hopping right into the directions, how to cook, right? We just discussed placing the ribs on a foil-lined sheet tray. Just going to make cleanup much easier. If you have a cooling rack, you can even put the cooling rack down and have the ribs cook on the cooling rack. That way it gets full airflow coming all the way around. Cover tight with foil. We're skipping the foil. And we're just going to go straight on to the top shelf. Boom, boom, 400 degrees. And we're going to roast these. You're looking for about 180 to 190 degrees is what the done temperature is going to be. Technically, you can eat pork much lower than that, like 148, I believe, is a very safe temperature to be consuming pork. But you really want them to kind of be like tender. So we're going to cook them a little bit longer. When you're cooking pork shoulders and other things that you want to be pulled apart for like barbecue and stuff like that, you usually want to float around 200 to 205 degrees. We're not looking for fall shredding. We want them to be a little toothsome here. So I'm going to cook them to about 190 degrees. So that just kind of gives you an idea of like, well, you said it's going to take 45 to 60 minutes. You're looking for around that sweet spot. So having one of these guys definitely helps. Probe thermometer, but when in doubt, err on the outside of that to the 60 minutes. You'll also notice, and I'll show you on these in just a moment, the meat is going to start coming away from the tops of the bones. So when that starts to really shrink, that's also a pretty safe indicator of when your ribs are going to be ready. Waiting for the ribs, we put all this stuff together. Let's make our slaw. Slaw is the same thing. You can kind of work with your own flavor preferences, stuff like that. Come back to the board. I think it makes the most sense to start with the dressing, and then we can add all of the components to the dressing. That way we're not dirtying up like a bunch of stuff, and it's only all in one bowl. These. So you want the juice of 1 lime. Never use parchment paper. Yes, parchment paper can work. This was like a super juicy lime. Yes, top shelf. Excellent. Coming in with about a tablespoon of honey to our lime juice. These are some sticky ribs. We got a lot of honey working on going around. Recipe says 2 tablespoons of olive oil. I'm only going to do 1. You can add an extra tablespoon if you'd like. I personally just don't think it needs it. Grab the smallest whisk you can possibly find. Whisk all this together. Super simple, super easy. You have sweetness, you have some sort of fat, right? Some body to round out the palate, and then you also have your acidity. That's like the basic for really any sort of dressing, any sort of slaw especially. I'm going to come in here with a little bit of salt just to season. Awesome. That smells so good. So we're going to put this off to the side. So You could have green cabbage. You could buy coleslaw mix. You could have purple cabbage. I found this awesome, really cool shredded purple cabbage right here. This is what I'm going to be using. I'm going to dump it all right into our dressing. And then I also have some shredded carrots. If you don't have shredded carrots and all you can find is like a regular carrot, this is what you're going to do. You're going to take your cheese grater, your box grater. Your box grater has many sides. There's a wide slice, your first largest of like a grate. That's probably not the professional term here, but we all know what I'm talking about. Then we have the smaller, the medium size here, same thing. Then we have the very, 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 very fine. If we were going to make grated carrots for our slaw, we're going to use this. If I was grating cheese for like mac and cheese or something, we're going to use this. This side, to be honest, I never even use. So I can't really tell you what the proper, I don't know, preparation for that would be. This side, on the other hand, the very, very fine side, believe it or not, I use probably most often anytime I'm going to be using this. If you ever need very fine grated cheese, powdered cheese for like, I don't know, if you're making carbonara, cacio e pepe, stuff like that, you need this size. You can't use a microplane. You need a finer grate, something that is going to increase the amount of surface area per particle. That is where we're going with this one. But none of that is important today because we are going to be using this one for our carrots. Just cut the top off of a carrot and then grate it just like this. Watch your fingers. Don't take your eyes off of the box because this is easily one of the most dangerous tools in a kitchen. Get to the end. When you're like this small, it's not worth your fingers. Don't worry about it. Put it off to the side, compost it, save it for stock, whatever it may be. You're going to need a little more carrot than just this. But I just wanted to show you the example of, oh, if you're going to grate it yourself, you can easily just use a box grater. Super easy. Then I come in with these carrot matchsticks here. Just like that. We always have those in our house for salads and stuff like that. So it's easier that way. Hold on one more time. Can you cut the ribs individually or do they need to be in pairs? No, you can absolutely cut them individually. They'll even cook a little bit faster. I like the texture though, when it has an extra rib next to it. Any sort of meat, especially when you're cooking it at a higher temperature, when it's cooking really quickly, it's immediately going to seize up on itself, right? Especially if it's cooking on a bone. If you got a buddy next to yourself, they don't tighten up as quickly and they kind of get a little bit more tender that way. But again, you can totally do them individually if you'd like. Doesn't matter, to your preference. So next to this, also optional, I have some cilantro here. I'm just going to take some cilantro. Very simply, we're just going to rip it. No need to cut it. It's totally all right. I like these nice big pieces. Cilantro plays very well. Cilantro plays very well with the lime. It's going to kind of add some sort of like cooling sensation in contrast to all the heat we have going on with our ribs. So I think it's just like a very nice little addition here. Just like that. In the meantime, you can see this is starting to really boil on us and get nice and thick. So again, just kind of keep that on the back burner. Keep your eye on it. Make sure it doesn't boil over. Is the honey glaze the only honey and apple cider vinegar? Yes. No. And then there was some hot sauce in there as well. So it's like a hot honey glaze, essentially, is what we're making. 2 tablespoons of your favorite hot sauce. If you don't like spicy foods and maybe you don't want hot sauce on this as a glaze, you can also do barbecue sauce, maybe even a combination of both. If you don't have barbecue sauce, but you still wanted to kind of keep this, now we're kind of getting carried away and straying away from the theme of what this is. You could easily add a little bit of soy sauce and reduce that. Soy, vinegar, and honey as well would be like a nice, almost teriyaki style type thing. Also would pair well with this lime, cilantro, slaw situation we got going on. Got our tongs. We're just going to toss our vegetables in here. You could do this a day ahead. It's actually a coleslaw, right? So it's going to kind of get better as it sits. That acid's going to kind of do its thing, really soak in and break down these vegetables, make them a little softer. really impart some nice flavor. I like this sort of slaw instead of doing like a mayo-based slaw. I think it's a little lighter. I think it's a little more enjoyable as well. Don't get me wrong. I love mayo-based coleslaws, but you know, this one's just a little lighter. And that's it. Pretty easy, super nice, quick slaw. Let's give it a taste. Make sure we like it. We do. It's fresh. I like that a lot. Oh, awesome. I love that tip, Nicole. Excellent. Yeah, roasting time is going to be a little bit closer to 60 minutes or so. Again, it depends on the size of your ribs. It depends on how many ribs you have on a sheet pan also at once. It also depends on your oven. Everyone's oven is a little bit different. But the rule of thumb, we're looking for that 180, 190 internal temperature for our ribs. It's a safe zone. Okay, let me show you what I got. So I had these ribs going just before the show started. They smell so good. I brushed them in the last 10 minutes. I brushed them twice. So it just kind of helps them get a little bit sticky. The extra heat on it helps kind of like break down that honey into the ribs itself, which is nice. Just like this. So yeah, in your last 10, 15 minutes, you're just going to kind of brush these guys down, pop them back in, let them go for like 5, 8 minutes, do it one more time, pop it back in, and then maybe do it one last time right before you're about to serve them. They don't need to go back in that final time, okay? As promised, as I told you guys before, you see how I just covered this in sauce. I'm so sorry. I should have showed you this first. You see how this bone is starting to peek out? The rib meat is kind of creeping up on the bone. That's another good sign that you're in good business. Your ribs are done. If you don't have an instant read thermometer. All right, let's see what we did real quick. Let me grab a platter. Got some slaw. And just like that. Where are those guys? We got our ribs. Yes. Slaw fits right there. You can garnish these with just like a little extra cilantro, parsley. You could serve it with like a nice side of your sauce. There you got it. Party ribs. Not that bad. Let's give them a taste. This one looks good. Awesome. I love the sweet and smoky rub from ButcherBox. It's so good. We've been putting it on everything. Meat comes right off, nice and tender. I feel like I need to finish this whole rib. Super good. And it's not too spicy. Like with the hot sauce, 2 tablespoons. The honey is like the perfect counter for that. Let me wash my hands. I'll be right back. So really, I really don't open this oven until like I hit that 40-minute mark to take a look at them, get a temp read on them, or just get a closer eye, and then determine if you need a little bit more time on them Or if you're going to go straight into your glazing process, super easy. We don't serve them right away. That's fair. You're 3 hours ahead. What do you recommend not fully cooking? No. Definitely fully cook them. Definitely fully cook them. It's pork. It's a little questionable to go halfway and then to finish it later. I would cook them all the way to that 180 spot that you're looking for. What I would pay attention to, though, Nicole, is how much you are going to be glazing them, right? Because if you're going to reheat them later in the oven, which you totally can, I would opt for like maybe 375 for reheating and then having them in there for about 10 to 15 minutes or until they're heated through. Also, I should rewind. Take them out of the oven when you are done cooking them. Don't put them in the fridge. Let them just cool. You can wrap them or put a layer of foil or something like that right on top, just so like, you know, stuff's not touching them or anything like that and they don't dry out. But you don't want to fridge them. They're okay to be out of the fridge for a few hours to come to room temperature. You're going to blast them in a 375-degree oven again later. Nothing's going to bother you or anything like that. But pay attention to how many times you're glazing it, because if you are going to put them back in the oven, maybe you want to glaze them one last time when you are reheating them that way. If you glaze them too much in and out of the oven and roast them again at 375, you risk burning the honey in the glaze. So you can kind of use your own judgment for something like that. Convection or regular oven? Regular oven. But if you are doing a convection oven, it's always 50 degrees less than what your regular oven is calling for, because convection ovens are just way more powerful. Usually used in commercial kitchens, although there's a lot of home ovens now these days that have a convection setting. I would just opt for a regular oven if you have it. That's what we've been practicing with this recipe, and we know it's tried and true. Sweet. You are good. You're good. Thank you so much for the kind words. Guys, I'm just kind of coming up here, making sure I didn't miss any questions before we sign off. But essentially, those are party ribs. Super easy, super fun. I think your guests and everyone are going to love them. What is the final temperature again, Pam? We are looking for 180 to 190. That's sweet spot. 185 is cool too. Even if you go a little bit above 190, you're totally fine. Pork is good to eat at around 145, 148. But again, we want these to be nice and tender. They're ribs. It's a different part of the pig. It's not just like a pork loin or something like that. So we're shooting for around 180. What else do we have? Comes to my house every month. Yes. God, love ButcherBox, right? Awesome, guys. Awesome. Do I change temp? My oven is on convection bake. Do I change temp? No, you should be okay. You should be all right. Awesome. All right, y'all. Thank you so much. If you guys are trying this recipe tonight, please, my handle is at theartofelating.info. We'll put it in the chat. You can also tag ButcherBox, tag Truffle Shuffle. We want to see your creations. We're going to repost them. We want to see how things are going. Also, this video is going to live on the ButcherBox and Truffle Shuffle YouTube page. So just in case you missed anything, feel free to revert back to that live. It's going to live there forever. All right. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate your time. Have a lovely Sunday, and we'll see you next time.
For some reason I can't explain. Once you go when I ruled the world. It was the wicked and wild wind blew down the doors to let me in, shattered windows and the sound of drums. People couldn't believe what I